Have you ever wondered how your wargaming plastics are made? Today, we visit the factory and see the inside of one of the, if not the, best plastic manufacturer in the EU. And today, we're gonna share all of those secrets with you. In the center of Europe, in a small city in Poland, close to the German borders, lies Archon Studios. Even though they just started producing plastics in 2019, they are already up there fighting with the quality of Games Workshop. And we've been lucky to be invited to learn everything there is to know about miniature production, all their secret techniques to make the best plastics. And even cooler yet, they're gonna make one of my childhood dreams come true. But to understand how they come so far in just a few years, we need to start a little bit further back. So this is Jarek. He's the owner and CEO of the company Archon Studios. As a young adult, he used to work for the Jaguar and Range Rover factories. But his love for miniatures had him journeying to get out of the corporate world and closer to the miniature hobby. So in 2014, he started the company Archon Studios, initially to make the best resin kits possible. And so they did for many years for some of the biggest companies in the hobby. And in 2016, that changed when the UK voted for
Brexit. Roundabout when the Brexit was announced, our resin manufacturer told us that actually price will change quite a lot. That was the turning point when we decided we won't be able to provide any more resin. We have to use other method of manufacturing. We did try metal, but it was still not what we wanted to do as a process, so we decided to go full steam ahead with plastic injection.
So in 2019, Jarek made a massive investment purchasing one CNC machine to make tools and one high-injection plastic machine, these days beautifully named the Demo Gorgon. The company started experimenting and it took quite a lot of time for them to get everything right.
We were lucky to find somebody who knew a little bit about those machines to tell us exactly how to even turn it on. As we had it, we didn't know no idea absolutely how to work on these machines. It was just pure engineering, see how it works, and then try again, fail, try again, fail, try again. And at some point it just clicked, and at some point we knew, okay, this is the process, we have to just refine it now.
The first ever tool they made to produce sprues never made it into production, but it proved that they had an idea that they could make work and potentially change their business forever. After that, the company was on a roll and ready to release their first ever kit, Ramparts. And Archon Studios' timeline just matches so beautifully with the timeline of Squidmar Miniatures, because this is actually one of the first product reviews videos that I ever did on this YouTube channel some 5 years ago. Over the past 5 years, the company have continued to hone their skills and perfecting the machine processes. So let me take you through the factory, their process, to show you what makes them unique. But first, we need to design a miniature. To make a miniature's design, you need to start with a miniature concept. Every company works differently in this step. But the way we've worked when we've designed miniature is we start with making a brief for a concept artist, and the concept artist then sketches a couple of different variations and designs that we then can move forward with. Once this illustration is done, we select a sculptor that we think has a style that matches our idea and can turn this amazing illustration into an even more amazing 3D miniature. And this dragon, could it potentially have something to do with my childhood dream? Well, I guess you'll find out later in the video. Personally, I've always wanted to have my own dragon design. The Warhammer dragons look okay, but they don't really feel terrifying, they feel more cartoony. So when we started thinking about the idea of making a dragon, we reached out to Laco from Rescale Miniatures and asked him if he wanted to design a dragon for us. Once the miniature is sculpted, it is then sent to one of the engineers of Archon Studios. Archon's engineers are masters at then adapting your miniature sculpt into a sprue that is ready for production. There's a few things that you need to keep in mind when you're designing a sprue that is for plastic production. The first one being, there cannot be any hooks or overhangs, because if there is, the sprues will not be easy to remove from the machine and will create a poor manufacturing process. Secondly, you have to have good flow of plastic throughout the sprues. The plastic comes in at the center of the sprue and then travels outwards. And you need to have a very similar weight of distribution for the plastic on both sides of the entry point. If not, you'll probably have an uneven distribution of plastic on the sprues. And lastly, you need to have paths for the air to travel out from each cut part of the miniature. And if you have a sprue kit at home, you've seen these frames on the sprue. These are the paths that plastic travels to get to all of the miniature bits. And these are super important to make sure that every part gets the right amount of plastic. There is a ton of things to keep in mind when you are designing and engineering a sprue. It often takes a full week to design a sprue, but sometimes it can even take up to a month if it's a very advanced miniature. That is why today there is always at all times 7 people at Archon Studios working with designing and engineering plastic sprue layouts. Out of all the kits produced in the factory today, 75% of them are Archon's own products, such as terrains and miniatures for their RPG and wargaming lines, such as Dungeons and Lasers, or for the board games that they design, such as Masters of the Universe, Battlegrounds. And they always cap their capacity for other companies at a max of 25%. That can be companies such as ours, Squidmar Miniatures, and the minis that we had in our paint sets. Or other companies such as Mantic, Parabellum and their game Conquest, just to mention a few. And the reason they capped this at 25% of their capacity is the fact that they've been burned previously. They do not want to be in a situation where they risk the company because they overcommit to producing for other brands. But there's a reason why they haven't shifted it to 100% in-house production. And that is because they see their factory as a way to keep the industry healthy. If there's only one company producing good plastic kits, such as Games Workshop for Warhammer, and there is no competition, there's a big risk that the hobby will stagnate, and the quality of plastic and the amount of good games over time will be reduced to there just being one option like Warhammer 40k. And in just a bit, I'm gonna show you even more secrets from the factory, but before we do, a quick message from Squarespace. 5 years ago, I built my first website with the help of this week's sponsor, Squarespace. And it was so freaking easy, I kid you not. I've always hated programming and known nothing about it. But with Squarespace, not only do they hold my hand with the programming, but also with the layout and design. It is completely free to try to build your own website. If you just follow the link in our video description, you get 30 days to use their system that is now a mix of AI that guides you through designing the website, but also about 2 decades worth of design knowledge and pre-made templates that you can reuse for your purpose. You can host a web shop, you can have a gallery that looks amazing, and you can sell your services easier than ever before. So what are you waiting for? Head to squarespace.com, try to build your own website completely for free, and then when you're ready to launch the website, head to squarespace.com/Squidmar, use the code Squidmar and get 10% off your entire purchase of a website or a domain. Do it now, your business needs it. Now, let's get back to production. Once the cuts are made, the miniatures are sent down to the tooling department. There are currently 8 machines running 24/7 milling out the tools. And tools is what the metal molds that you cast from are called. Every tool requires multiple steps of production and milling, and it takes multiple days, sometimes weeks, to finish. A tool with just regular bases takes about 3 days to mill up, while a tool for something bigger, like say a massive dragon produced for Squidmar Miniatures, might require about 4 tools, each one requiring about 5 to 10 days of a machine's full focus. Oh, and what might this be? This kind of looks like a body of a dragon. But more on that dragon later. The tools are first milled with a 6mm tool equipped with diamond tips. Yes, I know that the tools, the drills, are named the exact same things as the tools that are the molds. So from here on out, I will call the drills drills. This step using the 6mm drills removes a massive amount of metal from the slabs. Once this is done, the tools looks something like this, and this step takes only about 40 minutes. After this, it's run with a 3mm drill, a 1.5 a 1mm, 0.75, 0.5, and then finishing it off with a 0.3mm drill. The costliest part in terms of manpower is engineering the sprue design and layout. But when it comes to manufacturing cost, the metal slabs and the drills, and of course the hours of blocking up the CNC machines, is by far the most expensive part. With each drill head costing about 100 euros, and you run through them like donuts in a police station, it is bound to add up to a lot of money. And one of these big molds/tools will end up costing you somewhere between 8,000 to 15,000 euros per mold. And you might think we're done with the tools after we have drilled it with the 0.3mm heads, but most likely you're not. And this step was the only one that we're not allowed to show, because this is what they call Jarek's secret sauce.
There's a post-treatment once the material is cut, once the tool is ready to production, but before we start mass production, we're curing it and we make it a little bit stronger.
That makes the tools then be able to produce many hundreds of thousands of copies of the plastic kits, without producing pretty much any decrease in quality of the plastic kits over time. After that though, the tools are done and ready for the next step in the plastic production process, the HIPS machine. This is where you inject hot plastic with high pressure into the tools to make the plastic kits come alive. And I'll try to explain everything you need to know about this step. Once you've set in the tools into the HIPS machines, you need to perfect the settings. This is everything from amount of plastic inserted into the machine, to the pressure, to the time it needs for cooling, and that's just a few of the things. Because once you've produced your first set of sprues, you might find problems when you glue the miniatures together, or part of the miniature that needs adjustments. As an example, if you take a look at this monolith rock that we have here, where you can see that some part of the plastic sprue wasn't fully covered with plastic. This is either because there's air trapped there and we need to have a pathway for the air to travel out of there, or it was just simply too thin for the plastic to actually fill out that area. With this sprue, we also had the problem that the base was a little bit too thin and warped a little during the cooling process, so the parts are then sent back up to the engineers and then redesigned again to make sure that we have none of these problems for the end product. And this adjustment process, going back and forth between the CNC machines, the engineers, and the HIPS machines, is what Archon has been perfecting over the last couple of years. And they keep getting better and better at it every year to make sure that all of their plastic kits live up to the standard that they would like to have on the minis that they purchase. And some miniatures, before they are confirmed as good enough for full production, it can go back and forth until the engineers are happy with it. So if you pick up any of your Games Workshop kits and look at the sprues, you can see how many times it's gone back and forth between design, engineers, and milling. As an example, this is the sprue left over from a Space Marine repulsor. If you check up in the corner here, you can see that there are 12 dots, meaning that it had to go back to the engineers 12 times before they had a finished sprue ready to be sold. So our tool is now perfect and ready for mass production. The tools are attached to the HIPS machines again, calibrated so it has a perfect filling time and then a perfect cooling time. Some sprues can be produced in 20 seconds, including cooling time, while most of the sprues require about a minute per sprue. On the far end of the machines, there is a big garbage bin filled with polystyrene plastic bits. These are neutrally colored. In the bins, you also find about 2% colored palettes. 2% gray palettes is enough to create the gray look of the sprues that we are used to. But if you look closely, there are of course a bunch of other interesting colors and transparent options out there. Greens, oranges, or even colored transparent processes. From this bin, the plastic is vacuumed into a dehumidifying chamber over the machine, so there won't be any instabilities with the humidity messing up any stuff. Once all the moisture is gone, the plastic is melted down and then with high pressure shoved into the tool. Once that is done, it is cooled down in the machine. It has a water cool down process that takes somewhere between 10 to 30 seconds per tool. And once the plastic is cooled down, it's then mechanically pushed out of the machine and we have our finished sprue. After this, every single sprue is controlled visually and then the injection tip is removed with a clipper. If there are any faulty sprues or leftover bits, all these parts are then regrinded in one of their machines and added back into the plastic bins. Right now, the amount of wrongfully produced sprues is very low, but it was very cool to see that even if they are producing plastic kits, they have the environment in mind for their entire process, recycling as much as possible in every step. So there is nearly no plastic waste in the factory. And you might think, we're done, the plastic kit is finished, no more things to see here. Well, they proved at least me wrong, because over the past year or so, Archon has developed a brand new technology to be able to pre-paint the plastic while it's on the sprues. They found a way to use UV ink, print that on top of the plastic sprues, and make it look actually surprisingly really good. In the factory, there are 4 of these machines running all day to color sprues for users. We did get a few of these sprues back home to test, and already from a first view, on the table, these look amazing. So it's gonna remove a lot of that problem that people have. They buy kits because they want to play games and have cool immersive gaming tables and scenes, but there's no time for them to paint up the dungeons, terrain kits and houses. With these kits, you can just clip them off the sprue, put them together, and you have a playable, fully painted kit in just a few minutes. But I, for one, am super excited to see where they are gonna take this process and what type of kits they are gonna produce in the future using this technique. Because it's already this good after a year, where are we gonna be in 3-4 years from now? This whole video, I've been teasing you guys about them making my childhood dream come true. And let me introduce our own plastic freaking dragon. Meet Strak, Nightmare Incarnate. This miniature has taken us over 3 years from the first concept to a final plastic kit, and we are about to release him in just a few months. I also find it kind of fascinating that this dragon, with designing it, with carving the molds to make the sprues, everything, we still hope to be able to sell this dragon for under $100. And I cannot really put into words how freakishly excited I am to finally have this dragon fully completed in its flesh. It is so big and it is so freaking beautiful. I don't think I've ever seen this epic, dynamic post-dragon in plastic ever in my life. And all of it is based off the dragon Strak that is in our Champions of Zona book. And hopefully it's going to be able to be in a game in the future as well. I think we're about 2 months out to be able to release this one, so make sure you're signed up to our newsletter on our website. I think that will be the best way to know whenever we launch the campaign for it, but it's still a few months out. I think Lucas and I are gonna make a video where we convert it to a Warhammer army each, and I think we're gonna do like 10 of them. We're gonna do one normal, and then do one for each one of my armies, because have you seen something this epic before? But I think a cool thing that Archon is doing as well is that like they're not just doing minis, like they started doing these massive, if we can call it that, pirate ships like this one, where it's like so many different plastic sprues in one kit, and the kit is like huge. I think this is the biggest vehicle I've ever seen made in plastic for a war game. It's like 10 times the Lego ship you had as a kid. And the prices for these aren't even that bad. Like they're gonna sell this one for, I'm gonna put the price up here. Boom, so you can see the end price for it. For this big a ship in plastic for your war games, 32mm, pretty awesome. Their campaign just went live, so if you want to check that one out, you can do that as well. To just recap, this visit to the factory is one of the coolest things I've got to do, and the people over at Archon was so lovely and I had such a good time. I hope you learned something from it. If you did, smash like. Maybe if you get 15,000 likes on this video, Lucas and I will do a battle where we convert the dragon on each and just make it look awesome. Massive thanks to this week's sponsor, Squarespace. And of course, our amazing patrons. If you want to paint like Lucas and I do, check out our paint set we did together with Vallejo. With those paint sets, you can paint anything you want. And it's only 36 paints, so you don't need to buy 1,000. All of it is going to be linked down below. With that said, have a great day.